grew up in a Wall Street family, like hardcore sales, Wall Street people. And I don't know, rejected the family business and went into more marketing, public relations, advertising. That's sort of what I studied in school with business minor. Fell into when I decided I did not want to. I realized very quickly there wasn't a lot of money working for someone else.
All right. What is up, Passion Seekers? So I'm super excited. Today, I have someone really special. She was the top realtor in all of Carolina 1 for GCI and volume, top 5 realtor in Charleston MLS, and the team leader of Southern Yankee Group, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
absolutely.
Jackie, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit, and what I want to hit on for a little bit is, so you're from Northeast, right?
Yes.
What part exactly?
Northern New Jersey. So, yeah, my family is originally from New York. And then when I was young, we moved to North Jersey, way, way, way up north in New Jersey, about 40 minutes outside Manhattan. Parents both worked in the city and grew up kind of going into Manhattan and got all my first jobs there. And then I went to school in central Pennsylvania, met my husband, and then I moved back home for about 2 years. We got married super young, 24.
Yeah.
So bought our first house when we were engaged at 24 and lived in Chatham, New Jersey, and then Madison, New Jersey. Okay. And then just lifestyle change, kind of hit our 40s. We had 2 boys, 7 and 10. Yeah. And we're looking for, better quality of life, better lifestyle, just something new. And found the Charleston area, actually on a 40th birthday trip.
No way.
Couples trip. Couples went down, stayed at Market Pavilion, ate at Halls. And we were like, all right, we're done, we're moving. So my husband's family's from all over the place. Yeah. Mine is really in New York and New Jersey. So he was like, there's no way you're doing this. And I was like, oh God, I don't know. I think it's time. So we kind of ripped the Band-Aid off, and we're involved in some businesses up there and had a bunch of real estate up there. Sort of sold everything and took a leap of faith and moved down here. Yeah. So how was 8.5 years ago? So
8.5 years. Yeah. So how was that? I mean, basically, you said you had a couple businesses.
So I started my career in PR and marketing, working for corporate America, interned for Citigroup and PR with Jamie Dimon and that whole crew back when he was, before he was CEO. Yeah. Really grew up in a Wall Street family, like hardcore sales, Wall Street people. And I rejected the family business and went into more marketing, public relations, advertising. That's sort of what I studied in school with business minor. Really fell into when I decided I did not want to. I realized very quickly there wasn't a lot of money working for someone else, trying to, watching all these people that were 10, 15 years older than me still trying to claw their way up. Had some friends who were going into more draw-based business sales, which, if you don't know what draw-based business sales is, you don't really have a base salary, but they give you a draw. So they do give you some money, way back then, years ago. I don't want to say how long. They'd give you $30K as a draw, but you'd have to earn through that to make commission on top of that. So it's a little different than straight commission based where it's, if you don't make money, you don't get paid. So they still give you a little stipend to live, which does make it easier for a young professional to kind of, get started. So really, really quickly, that was in headhunting, which was a big business back in the day, executive recruiting, headhunting. And I went in and I started out in a temporary services group for an accounting and finance business that was doing a ton with the big, I guess it was big, almost 6 back then, big 5. And then we would recruit young, talented people who wanted to do public accounting and then put them into, analytical positions, accounting positions with corporate America. And it was straight commission-based sales. So I sort of moved up the ranks from just working for myself and then managing a team. And the money was really, really, really good. Yeah. And I decided I was never going to work for anybody again in my life. So did that for a number of years, then broke off with a partner, started my own company. Sort of at the height of that portion of my career, we were doing, $5-6 million worth of business, had 4 or 5 employees. I had my second son and decided to take a step back. It was just a real difficult going into the city every day and doing that business with young kids. So I took a couple of years off and did basically bought and sold renovated properties just for myself. Never had my real estate license, ironically enough. Yeah, so I did that, owned a retail business for a little bit with my sister when we were trying to figure out our next move. I owned a digital newspaper for a while. I call that my, the years of my 30s that I was sort of like in transition from one major career, kind of trying to find the next major career with young kids. Yeah. Just always had like the real estate bug. Like my husband and I always bought and sold. I mean, we bought our first property, never rent. I have never paid rent in my entire life.
Oh, that's incredible.
Ever. I've never paid rent. I have a, philosophical issue with paying rent.
Me and you both.
Yeah. So I've never rented. I've always been an owner, which is sort of interesting. I guess when I say it now, it's kind of an anomaly. But so we bought our first property again when we were 24, when we got married. Have always owned our primary home and multiple other homes, invested, flipped, love design, everything from the silly stuff of like picking out the floor and the tile. I mean, I can go into a design center, like no one's business, or I can do super high-end custom stuff, but always was doing that kind of work. And then we moved down here and my kids were a little bit older, didn't quite need me as much at home. My husband was traveling a ton in tech and decided to continue the buying and selling and renting. We've lived on Daniel Island in South Carolina now for 8 years. We are on our 6th home that we've physically lived in, and we've probably owned about 12.
Oh, freaking love Daniel Island.
Yeah, I love Daniel Island.
So I'm born and raised here, and spent a lot of time. I actually went to high school in the Mount Pleasant, so most of my friends lived on Daniel Island. And literally
back when it was like tumbleweeds.
When it was like literally just a couple homes. Yeah, and then we would always explore through the woods and all that stuff. And now every time I drive over, or like go to Daniel Island, my wife's from Kansas City, Missouri, and she was like, she knows what Daniel Island is now. Right. I know what Daniel Island used to be. Yeah. And to what it's grown. I'm like, little do you know. Right. Little do you know. So, I mean, it sounds like with, your background, family and all that stuff, sales has really been a big key factor with most of your life, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just realized, I was very lucky that I figured out very early on what I was good at, and was able to monetize that. I feel like it's taken me a long time to sell the product. Yeah. Hating the real estate. It was like always like I was doing real estate on the side and making money at it, but it was never the core of what I was selling. I was always selling other stuff. And it was really nice to move to Charleston, find myself in a, great position where it was like a new community, could kind of reinvent myself a little bit career-wise. It was lucky that my husband had the kind of job where it was like okay to sort of take a little bit of a leap of faith with something else. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. This is a difficult thing to do if you're the breadwinner and you have no other income and you're just starting out. So it was like a really good time of my life to do it too. And I finally realized that maybe like the key to success was not only figuring out what I was good at, but what I enjoyed doing too. And I feel like getting my license, again, started out as more of like a passion project. Like I want to buy and sell more real estate for ourselves here and do that. And then it just sort of morphed into, I was always talking about real estate. People saw what my husband and I were doing as far as buying and selling and making money, like when we were here, and kept saying, you should, would you help me do that? Would you help me do that? Would you help me do that? And, in the dark of night over a glass of wine, I was kind of like, this is just stupid. I'm going to get my license. I can actually make money at this rather than doing it for free. Yeah. It's sort of, I remember sitting in launch, and it was interesting because I had so much sales background and I owned a company before. So, and I had done so much real estate before. It was sort of like, I said to my broker, Rusty Hughes, like, do I really need to do this? Like, he's like, I think it would be good. And I was like, okay, I'm all in. I'm totally up for whatever. So I was in launch, and I got through, I think, about 35 days of launch, and not the full 6 day. I'll be fully candid because my business had taken off, and I was like, I can't go in. I'm making money. But, it was really interesting because one of the things that they have you do in launch is write down what your goal for what you want to make, monetarily. Like they have you do all these things about like what you're passionate about and what you want to achieve as far as, gratitudes and what you want to do with your career and who you want to be and all of those things, which is important. But I had sort of been there and done that. Like I kind of knew who I wanted to be. Yeah. So I, when they asked like what the goals were, I was more focused. And I remember I said I wanted to make $75,000. I don't know why. It seemed like
a reasonable number.
It seemed like a reasonable number. Like, I don't know. I was making nothing at that point. I was like, 75,000.
More than I'm making now.
It sounded like a good number. It's like, well, that'll pay for a couple of vacations and, whatever. And I remember the first year I looked back and I kept the sheet of paper and I think I had made like $350K the first year doing it.
Wow. That's impressive.
It was like, wow, this is like, this was a good move. This was way more than I expected to achieve. And then I sort of had the confidence to just kind of hit the ground running and being like, wow, this is really something that I want to do more full time than what I thought was going to be like sort of part time for other people and full time for myself, more like buying and selling and investing for myself most of the time and dabbling with helping other people to, this is, maybe this is where I should spend more of my time helping other people.
Yeah.
So that's really how it all started 4 years ago.
And that's pretty impressive in your first year, like making that. I mean, because the odds, you blew through the odds. Because 90% of agents fail within their first year. Yeah. And then an average licensed agent in South Carolina write, 50% of them don't even write a contract. Which I read that stat the other day and I was like, wow. Because when I got into real estate, I was like, okay, like I'm a numbers nerd. Like I love the stats. I love the numbers. So I looked at the numbers and it was like, probably not the best thing to do when I'm getting into real estate. It's like 90% fail. I'm like, great. So I took the approach of like, okay, I just got to do what 10% people do. Yeah. And 50% don't write contract. I'm like, oh, okay. So I got to do 10% of what the 50% do. I'm like, okay, that seems manageable. Yeah. But unfortunately, this industry, it's hard. Like it's no joke. Like
it is.
It's easy to an extent. And you talked a lot about passion. Like you got into this as a passion project and all that stuff. And that's one of the things I love and like why I've created Passion Seekers. And I've said it numerous times to our listeners. And the thing is, it's easy when it's your passion because you just like doing it. Like you were doing it for free for a little bit for everybody. And it was like, oh crap, like there's money just sitting here on the table. Yeah. Why not just do it? And it's like, I love that you said like you're not gonna get rich by working with anyone, like for someone.
Right.
With discrepancy there, like obviously there's people in, CEO, there's, Bob Iger, who's, the CEO of Disney World. But at the same time, like he's technically still his, boss to some extent.
Yeah. There's always accountability. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Everybody has accountability. I feel like, there's accountability even when you work for yourself too.
Yeah. And I think that was the hardest thing is because like when I was in roofing or when I was in the corporate world, I was sitting there and I was like, you're always told what to do. Like you should wake up every single day. You're given a task and you have to do it. I don't like being told what to do. And I was like,
me either.
Yeah. I was like, that's just stupid.
There's a common thread there.
Yeah. And it's like, this is just stupid. I don't want to, like, I can do it better. And that's literally, and I used to go home to my wife. I'm like, am I just delusional? Am I arrogant that I think that I can do it better than my CEO? To some extent, like I was just ignorant. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, no, I feel like entrepreneurs are just, they don't like being told what to do. Like they're those type of people like, no, I'm just going to do it myself. And I can see that a lot in resonating with you.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think being really successful at sales is a little bit arrogance and a little bit ignorance. Really. Yeah. It's sort of like, I'm being so ignorant that I think I know everything and I'm being so arrogant that I think I know everything. Yeah. So it's like the real estate business specifically is so interesting to me because people can walk into houses very easily. It's a very low barrier to entry to get into this business. It does not take a lot of capital and it,
no.
Quite honestly, it does not take a lot of passion and it does not take a lot of,
That's why there's a lot of bad
whatever, I'm not going to say it, but, so the barrier to entry is in my opinion, very low, which is why a lot of people get into it because not that there's anything wrong with them, but it is, an area that does have low hanging fruit that's, seems, it always seems sexy. It always seems like, oh, it's so flexible. I can be my own boss. I can work whenever I want. And I have found like the polar opposite from this business. It is a business in which I probably put more hours in than any other career I've ever done. I put more hours in than working for someone else, albeit the hours are something that I can control a lot more to an extent. Yeah. Right. So I am a professed not morning person. So this whole get up at 5 o'clock and do gratitudes is not what I'm doing. I am just not a morning person. Yeah. So I've been able to control my business where I trust me, if someone needs me to be somewhere at 9 o'clock, I'm dressed and ready to go. Yeah. However, I do find it's worked very well for me because I can control, the best hours of my day where I feel like I'm the freshest and I can, give the most and I'm the sharpest just as a person, kind of from 10 to 4. Right. Yeah. So I put a lot of hours in from 10 to 4 and then I can take a break and, or work right through, and then work a lot at night. And I do tend to, after dinner kind of clean up and go back to work. And that I like about it. Right. So because most jobs, you're 9 to 5 and it's sort of I'm not so great from 9 to 11. Well, that stinks. You just lost 2 hours a day. Yeah. So, that's something that I like about it too.
I'm polar opposite. I'm the psycho that gets up at 4 a.m. Okay. But in the same contract, I'm super efficient then. Right. I get up at 4 and it's quiet. My phone's not ringing. My wife isn't up because my wife is not a morning person. Yeah. She's like,
she and I would get along well.
Yeah. She's like, why the heck? But no one's up. And I can get so much work done. But granted, when 5 o'clock hits, I really kind of I'm still, accessible, but I'm not sitting behind a desk or a computer trying to knock out everything. Yeah. And that's what I've seen to like. But a lot of people, I feel like when they get into real estate, because there is no barrier to entry, you need $1,000 and some chump change to get you through the process. People are just oh yeah, it's flexible. I can do whatever. And, I got my license, so everybody's going to come to me and, want me to buy their house now. And So that's where the marketing aspect, and I think has played a huge role from what I can see. You started in 2019 and have excelled every single year to where you're at now. And then you had a marketing agency. So I went into real estate knowing that, this is a business. It's not just it's not a side gig. It is my business. I went from the start that I was the breadwinner, and I told my wife, I said, listen, I'm literally going to go making from a good chunk of money in our living to literally making hopefully one sale. Yeah. That didn't sit well with her at first. Yeah. but marketing was huge. How have you benefited, let me say it that way, from the past experience of having a marketing agency to having it in real estate now?
So I didn't have a marketing agency. I had a marketing background. Okay. And just to clarify that, because, my sort of passion, if you will, was, I guess real estate as a side hustle way back in the day, but really my, you say everyone's got a God-given gift, I can't sing, I can't dance, kind of thing. But I was really, really, really good at reading people, public relations, really being able to assess people and what they wanted very quickly. In every sale, there's always a decision maker. I mean, this is going back to my recruiting days. I mean, my first boss always said to me, he said, 90% of people fail in sales because they don't know who the decision maker is. So you spend a lot of your time and wheels spinning talking to the wrong person. Yeah. I think it's in real estate too. I always say, I've mentored some people coming up and they're like, what's the secret sauce? And I'm like, there is no secret sauce. Yeah. I'm like, when the phone rings, I pick it up, I voice call, I think we live in a text email world. People are spending a lot of money. In some cases, they're spending more money on real estate than they'll ever spend on anything else in their entire lives. Even the most savvy of individuals, even people that were way more successful than I was, older, more experienced, had bought more and sold more real estate than I have. It was reading what they needed from me and delivering that, and look, it's a lot of it was, hey, I'm moving to a new area, and yeah, I've bought and sold a ton of real estate, but like, I'm nervous about my 10-year-old kid, how they're going to play into the equation, you know? And I find that one of the problems with real estate is that people are so scared to be consultative, if that's a word, consult in the sales. Yeah. Right. We're kind of told like, oh, well, just give the people the data and let them make the decision. It's not, you're not buying the house, they are. I sort of have the exact opposite philosophy. Yeah. I mean, people are paying us a lot of money. If you start to get success and people start to, seek you out as a buyer's agent or a listing agent, they are hiring you and paying you for your expertise. And one of, I guess, my pet peeves in this business is, if you're not going to be an expert, and again, being an expert doesn't mean you have to have the answer to every question, right? But you darn well better be able to figure out how to seek out the answer to the question. And you don't have things in your toolbox that can help people. Why are they paying you? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, a 4-year-old could take my phone and figure out probably better than I can the Bluetooth to get into a Sentry lock. Because I have trouble sometimes. And manipulate to, with, Zillow and Redfin or whatever all these, sites are. Buyers have a lot of knowledge. Yeah. Sellers have a lot of knowledge. Why are they paying me for the same thing they can get themselves? So really, my approach to real estate is being or making myself indisposable to them. Yeah. They don't really have a choice in using me, because if they use me, I can do a better job than they can. And again, it's not regurgitating information they can get anywhere. It's, sort of inside knowledge of the market, knowing, where the pushes and pulls are, having a lot of, I guess one of my claims to fame here is that I have a lot of off-market opportunities for people, having, being able to put this together in a jigsaw. And again, I just walked out of a team meeting. I lead a team, and one of the girls said, wow, this is really a jigsaw puzzle. And I said, you just hit the nail on the head. This real estate business is a jigsaw puzzle, especially in a market like we have with low inventory, because everybody's on the market because the prices are so good. Everybody's willing to sell. There is no inventory line, I think, is probably one of the greatest excuses of our time. It's so true. There's nothing but inventory. Everybody else sell. It's go knock on their door. Go knock on their door. Offer them enough money. Everybody else sell. Yeah. Everything's for sale for the right price. Exactly. The problem is, I think, in this market is, where is the person going to go? So it's not that I won't sell my house, or if you offer me enough money, I don't like cash. Yeah. It's, I need a roof over my head, and where are you going to put me? Yeah. What's my alternative? So, in every listing presentation, I start my listing presentation as a buyer's agent. I find it very interesting, and I know people at this company who are grossly successful. I give them a tremendous amount of credit, because I have not been able to crack the code of how just to do the buy side or the sell side. Yeah. And again, I know there are teams in this company who I have talked to, and my mouth's open and I'm in awe, and I'm like, teach me, because that's interesting to me. But the only really way I know how to do it is to do both sides of the puzzle. Yeah. Now, in our business, doing both sides of the puzzle usually warrants you double the commission too. Yeah. So it's always shocking to me a little bit that people just do one side, or say, I'm just a buyer's agent, a seller's agent. And I'm like, why? Because most buyers are sellers and sellers are buyers. So you're double dipping, and sometimes you're double dipping and triple dipping and 4 times dipping. It's an infinite. And, I love that you say that, because I've only been in real estate for a year, and I told myself when I got into real estate, I said, I may not be, on day one, I'm not going to be the best realtor, but I can be the one that's a sponge, that I'm going to learn every single thing that crosses my, so that way when someone asks me about an Airbnb, I only know it from a consumer perspective, right? But like, I'm going to know it from someone that's inside. So like I said, I'm a big numbers person. So like right now I focus strictly on buyers. But that was my approach, was I'm going to learn. Buyers are typically more complicated. There's a lot more, to an extent, emotion involved, more hesitation, more
pushback. So they're going to fight you in some aspects. So I was like, okay, I just want to learn that side a little bit, but like, let's double it, the income, and be listing and buyer. I was like, I don't really believe that there's a one size that fits all. Like, there's not just a buyer agent. There's not just a listing. Like, you can appreciate working with buyers more than you do with listing agents, but at the same time, like, you're throwing your license for both. It's not like you have to get a certification or some sort of aspect. It's you can do both. And there's so many people that don't. And I'm like, why?
Well, you know, it's interesting because the first year I did this, I concentrated almost solely on buyers because I felt the opposite. I felt like the buyers were easier.
Really?
Yeah, because I felt like, okay, you know, they're not the paying customer. Really.
True. That's true.
There's less accountability. Like, if I find them a house, great. If I don't, no big deal. And I know that sounds very non-success driven comment, but it seemed like they were going to be easier.
Yeah.
And in a way they were, but I will tell you, I saw my business double and then quadruple and double again over the last 4 years because I changed my entire philosophy. And now I go after more of the listings and totally switched everything around. The reason being is all sellers are buyers.
Yeah.
But all buyers are not sellers. So I also felt that there were so many people chasing the buyer that many times the buyer was so fickle and so unloyal. Now, you know, I'm going to be careful how I say this because I'm not trying not to sound arrogant, but I've achieved enough success where buyers now seek me out. Before it was me, you know, constantly soliciting them. Yeah. So now they come to me more. But especially my first 2 years, it was like I was having those conversations and those life-changing moments that were going to, you know, say, oh my gosh, this person's getting married. This person's having a baby. This person is getting older. This person, you know, had a loss in the family, needs to move a parent here, whatever. And then, but buyers are, I find, not as loyal as sellers. Buyers will work, buyers will turn on a dime.
No, but like, you're 100% right.
It's funny when you start to think about it, right? I mean, it's like, it's not the natural way that your brain thinks when you start in real estate.
No, it's like, I'm going to chase after the buyers, but like, this is just dawning on me. And I think why, because getting a seller, I feel like it's more uncomfortable. You have to stretch yourself a lot more. A buyer, you can buy leads, which, you know, I think I've done. And
I've never bought a lead.
That's impressive. I did it like the first couple months and I was like,
I just had this conversation with somebody. They're like, what do you spend on lead generation? I'm like, nothing.
So you basically build starting from seller, from what it sounds like. You start from seller, and I'm going to use LTV, lifetime value of a customer. Yeah. So like, you know, the seller is going to eventually be the quickest buyer because they're selling their house.
Because they need a roof over their head. Yes. It's like, it's basic.
A buyer is either renting or is just like still living with mom and dad, or, you know, just like, oh, it's a pretty house. I don't want to go look at it. But with the seller, there's more urgency there. So you kind of build it in almost reverse, because I feel like every agent I have ever talked to, when I got started to now, it's like they focus on the buyer.
I did too. And then, you know, it was really interesting because I was saying like, and again, my biggest thing is, you know, I grew up in sales. I live in a sales world. I'm a product of sales parent. Like, I grew up in sales, and it was always about, you know, what are you going to do the following year? Like, you're only as good as your last year. And I remember, again, my first year when I was like, I was like, okay, well, this is like a lot of money. This is like really good. Like, I'm actually,
I can live off this.
I know. I was like, I'm kind of shocked. Like, the first thing that entered my head was not like, hey, awesome, let me go like on vacation, take some time off and like relax. It was like, oh my God, like I don't want to be the flash in the pan that can't do this the following year. So like, I'm the kind of person who's like constantly, I'm always looking to chase somebody. I'm not going to name the people in the company that I chase, but I always watch their numbers.
You need that.
Yes, I
feel like as in a business person, you have to have something you're chasing.
Yes. And I can tell you there was 5 or 6 people at Carolina One, and I will never forget. I watched them walk up on stage. The awards ceremony was different my first year, and I had started about a month before. It was like at Christmas time, maybe right after Christmas, but it was in more of an auditorium, and it was a very different from the luncheon that they do now.
Yeah.
And I just started in real estate. I think I was at the company like 4 weeks. I hadn't even gone to launch yet. I mean, I just basically got business cards.
Yeah.
And they had a dress up event. It was downtown. It was pre-COVID. It was different world back then. But I watched these people go up on stage, and I was like, I want to be that person. I want to be that person. I want to be that person. And I constantly, and still even to this day, there are 5 or 6 people, teams in this company that I watch their numbers. I watch them every day. There are people in the market. There are people. There are agents out there that, I watch their numbers. I watch what they're doing. I'm like, God damn it, they're having a really good month. They better have a better one. And it's not that I don't wish them every success. There's plenty of business to go around. It has nothing to do with that. And it really has to do, and it's not even arrogance. It has to do with that's how I self-motivate myself by constantly. And I always want to do better than I did the year before. I mean, I've been able to achieve that, which is awesome. I mean, this year I'll do better than last year. I make it a point to make sure that I'm constantly building on what I did before, but I am constantly tweaking my game.
Yeah.
I'm constantly, figuring things out. I will tell you, I do spend a lot more money than I ever did before. I mean, I'm making more money, but I'm spending more money. So I have seen a direct correlation.
How so?
Marketing dollars put strategically in the right places warrant. I'm a brand recognition girl. I like when everything is very similar. I stick to a look, and I stick to a feel, and I stick to a message, and I stay with it, and I stay with it for years. My mother gave me the best advice when I was growing up. She said, find it. And I'm going to perfume because I know it sounds so crazy, but I say this to my kids and I bring it back to perfume. Find your signature scent. Stick with it.
Oh, I'm going to hit
My mother wore opium perfume. Now, opium perfume is the most horrid smell on everybody, but for some reason, with her chemical makeup, opium smelled unbelievable on my mother.
Yeah.
It was a perfume. My mother, for the last 50 years, has wore opium perfume. It is her signature scent. When you smell it, you think of her. My grandmother wore beautiful. I know this is so crazy, and I'm dumbing this down to like the weirdest thing. But I relate this to everything I do. Like, what is my signature scent? Like, what is my signature message? Who am I, and how do I want people to remember me? And by having my marketing, my message, my consistency be that signature scent, if you will. And so when I walk in a room, you know I'm walking in the room. Yeah. When I'm putting out something, it's from me.
It's associated with different, like...
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And that's like something that I feel like is such the like, I don't know, like I guess there's a lot of secret sauces here that you figure out. I mean, and as you grow and experience different things in everything in life, there's secret sauces for different things. But that signature scent, the signature message, the continuity, the brand recognition. So because I've achieved, more sales, if you will, I've been able to spend more dollars kind of crafting that in places that make sense. Now, I said this to somebody on my team and they were laughing at me today. I was like, look, I don't want to really throw gum up against a wall and see what sticks kind of thing. What's sort of proven, and how can we do that more? Now, that's not trying new things, but I find that agents get into this business and they're like, whatever you budget to be your marketing dollars, it can be $100, it can be $100,000. It really does not matter. They just kind of throw it all over the place in 100 different non-meaningful ways that are very inconsistent. They don't know who they are. They don't know their identity. So buyers don't know who they are. Yeah. They don't know what their message is. They don't know what they stand for. Now, there is an agent. I'm happy to name her, and I don't want to embarrass her, but she's a top agent in this business. She's a lot younger than me. She makes a ton of money. She's always top producer. And she runs this market that's, she sells 300 to 500,000. That's her pocket. And I tend to sell more, $1.5 million to the $5 million mark.
Yeah.
We're both super successful. If you watch our numbers at the end of the year, we're almost neck and neck. Like, we got there two different ways.
Yeah.
I can't be her and she can't be me.
Yeah.
And as soon as you try to be someone else, it becomes really unauthentic. You don't seem like an expert anymore. It's very hard to find your own voice.
Yeah.
And it's really hard because nobody has that much money. I don't care how much you make in real estate to spend that much money that you can chase everything.
Yeah.
So like, who are you going to be? Who's your audience? I mean, my audience tends to be more of my contemporaries on Daniel Island. They are people who, belong to the golf club. I mean, it's who are my peers, I live on Daniel Island. I am a club member. I do this and that. I'm involved in, my kids are involved in sports. I'm involved in the Bishop England High School. Those tend to be my peers and my contemporaries. So it is much, much easier for me to consult with them because I'm living it, right? It seems authentic. I'm doing it. I can say to them, well, I'm not doing anything with my money, with your money that I wouldn't do with my own.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of first-time home buyers. I don't do a lot in areas that, would I love to do that? Yes. Do I turn my nose up at it? No. Money's money.
Yeah.
Sale's a sale, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where it's coming from. However, there are areas and demographics in the market, because Charleston's so large, that I don't feel like I'm an expert. So I feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So people say, oh, well, you're so successful and you're so this and you're so that. I'm like, yeah, with my niche, I am. And sometimes, and I say this to my kids, I say this to people all the time. It's like, sometimes it's just stay in your lane and become an expert in that lane. And when you consult or you sell and you're an expert in what you're selling, you feel more comfortable. You're more authentic. You're more advisory.
Yeah.
All of the above. So, that's kind of something else that I feel like is interesting as far as the marketing, who I'm marketing to, how I'm marketing.
Yeah. There's so much. So many good things.
A young person probably thinks what I'm doing is like, oh my God, this is like a, dinosaur snowboard.
Yeah.
I don't like it's too this or it's too that. They're looking for more of the agents that are out there doing, like this is an age thing. This is a, my peers thing, I'm a person who voice calls a lot. Like I pick up the phone and I voice call a lot. I can tell when I'm working with a younger agent because all they want to do is text. And every time I call them, they let it go to voicemail. And I'm like, it's very frustrating. I am sure me voice calling them and being like, why are you calling me, you dinosaur? Like, I'm sure it's very frustrating to them. Like, why do you keep calling me? You're annoying me. Just text.
Yeah.
That's like a very interesting part of this business too. And it's also knowing who your client is. I've got clients who are 70 years old. I just had a circumstance where my sellers, sold a $3 million house. They are 72 years old. They are fabulous. They're sharp as a tack. They can't figure out the email. They can't figure out the DigiSign. Highly intelligent people.
Yeah.
Business savvy, successful people. But they're like, Jackie, you got to drive over, and wet sign everything.
Yeah.
And, I've had to adapt my business because of that. And I find that I've gotten business with some of those people because they say, oh, I had another agent that was referred to me, but they texted me all the time and I got every third text and I called them and they didn't pick up the phone, or trying to get me to DocuSign documents that I don't understand because, the DocuSign, it moves fast.
Yeah.
So, just adapting how you're doing business to your audience, like anything else. This is pretty elementary to me, but maybe it's not. It's like, know your audience, read the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going like, read the room, know your audience. And that is a very lost art form.
It is so lost. And I'm glad you brought that up because it's so lost. Like there's a skill in communication.
Right.
Like you don't have to be Nobel Prize winner in communication or have this expert communication skill, but a phone call, you can fluctuate your tone. Mm-hmm. You can present things differently. Have you ever read the book Split the Difference?
Yes.
Oh God. So I've reread the book. I said I read it once, skimmed it the second time.
Right.
But it's the whole theory of mirroring. So I had a client. She was, nervous Nelly. There was a lot of moving parts in this. Like, her daughter was moving down the street, and if her daughter didn't get the house, she didn't want the house. If she didn't get the house, her daughter didn't. A lot of moving parts. So there's a lot of things to be nervous for. But if I called her, it's like, oh my gosh, hi, are you so that would have just freaked her out. Right. If I would have texted her, I wouldn't be able to, she was at one point fixing to pull out, completely, walk away from $10,000 earnest money, all this stuff. And I pulled the comps for her, and instead of talking to her oh my gosh, this would be a stupid mistake and all this stuff, it was mirroring. Right. I would listen to her and fluctuate my voice. I'm like, okay, she's talking to me very calm, very nervous. And it's like, listen, I understand you're really scared. Yeah. And acknowledging that. And I feel like that's something that's missed. It's like being able to understand your audience so well that you can adapt yourself. And you're not changing yourself. Right. You're just tweaking. How I typically talk, I'm very, extroverted. I'm, all over the place. I have that ADD brain. I'll be talking squirrel. But I have to know my audience and know who the individual I have another individual. He wants to buy on Sullivan's Island, and he is a business owner. He flies all over the U.S. He's a real estate developer, and he doesn't want to be friends. Not in an insulting way, but it's straight to the point.
Yeah, this is business.
Yeah. Tell me what I need to know. Here's what you need to know. This is what they want to know. Okay, cool. Write it up an offer. Sweet. It's not small talk. We don't want small talk. So It's a lost art.
Well, sometimes too is people just look, at the end of the day, some people just need to vent, and they need a punching bag for 5 minutes. And you know what? Not getting insulted about that, and just keeping calm and say, I hear you. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
You are right. Sometimes it is followed up with a but and a however, right? But most of the time, listening to the individual, it goes back to, and I'm going to bring this back to something else, and I'm rabbit trailing a little bit, but making my point is, I laugh all the time when in real estate, and I do this too. What are you looking for? Tell me the things that are important to you. I want 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bath. I want a place for my kids to do homework, and I want a backyard that I can put a pool in. Okay, great. You've just described pretty much every house between 500 and 5 million in Charleston.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, and I have found with 80% of real estate agents, they go into MLS, and I want to, let me even rabbit trail that a little bit more. And my window is from 850 to 1.2 million or whatever. You know what I mean? You can even tighten that up. It doesn't matter what your numbers are, 3 to 4 million, 7 to 800,000.
Yeah.
Whatever the price point is, doesn't matter. Agents will go into MLS, and they'll sit there for days before these people come. And they will search based on the exact criteria that they gave me. 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath, backyard, between 850 and 1.2. They could do that.
Yeah.
There's no consulting. There's no, hey, why do you need the 4 bedrooms? And again, logic would tell you, okay, the customer's always right. They want 4 bedrooms. Yeah. I don't want them to get mad at me. I don't want them to think I'm not doing my job. I don't want them to think I'm not listening. But why do you need 4 bedrooms?
Yeah.
Well, I don't really need 4 bedrooms. I have 1 kid, but I need an office. Okay, so we really need 3 bedrooms with a 4th room of some sort that's private. And again, as you go down, and I could do 150 different examples of this. Yeah. How big of a pool do you want? Well, I really don't even want a pool. I just want to know I could put it in, or I really just want a backyard that's big enough for privacy. So it's big enough for a pool, it's big enough for privacy. Oh my God. Well, this is a totally different house.
Yeah. We're looking at
here, I'm looking for pools. You don't even really want a pool. You just want to know you could put one in 10 years down the road because you have a 3-year-old and you don't want the pool right now.
Yeah.
It's So it's a lot of that I think is where real estate agents get super tripped up, just so never going outside the box, never like taking the conversation to the next level and saying, well, why, why do you need 4 bedrooms? Because why feels like you're questioning them. Why feels like you're being antagonizing.
Yeah.
Why feels like you don't want to do what they asked you to do, which makes who uncomfortable? Us, not them.
No.
Because normally when you ask people more questions, normally they get more comfortable, not less about what they want. Because then all of a sudden it's like, my core thing is I want cabinets up to the ceiling, or I want this, or I don't want any carpet. They start to delve into those more finite details where like, okay, well, here I'm running around trying to find a 4-bed, 2.5 bath with carpet and cabinets not up to the ceiling and blah, 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 blah. Like, and again, I'm dumbing it down to stupid stuff, but I'm looking for the wrong house, because really the 4 bedrooms and the 2.5 bath doesn't matter. It's a canned response. What are you looking for? 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath. It's like, I want a white house with a picket fence, 2 kids.
Yeah.
So it's like a canned response, but really what they're looking for, and really what's going to turn them on, and really what's going to make them excited, and really what's going to make them actually put in an offer on a house is the secondary details that they asked for.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it, and it just comes with experience, is some of it is knowledge of what these things cost to do, and say, well, let's not get so focused on the cabinets for the ceiling, because I was able to help somebody put them in, and that's a $7,000 thing. So we don't need to go $100,000 over in our budget to find a kitchen with cabinets to the ceiling, because for $7,000, I've got a guy who can put them in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but again, that comes with a little bit of an experience. Yeah. That comes with having, like you said, some of the stuff is just having conversations and knowledge. And the more you're in the business, the more you know what it, I am learning every day. I mean, I had a situation the other day. I had polybutylene pipes. I can't even say the word. It's like old pipes. And I'm like, I don't know what these are. Well, someone happened to say, well, with these poly pipes, the house probably won't be insured. And I'm like, holy crap, this is I've done a lot of deals. I've never run into this before. Well, now all of a sudden I start researching it. I go down a rabbit hole. I call my contact at Carolina One Insurance. I'm like, tell me everything you know about these pipes and getting insured. Mm-hmm. Then I call a plumber. I'm like, tell me everything you know about these pipes. So then all of a sudden, I go to my client and I'm like, we're negotiating in for them to replace the pipes. Well, these people think I'm an absolute hero. I had no idea what this was.
Yeah.
But it was like taking it to the next level. And again, this literally happened 2 months ago. This is, so people say like, oh, you're successful, you must know everything. No, I mean, learning every day. I mean, you gotta, every deal's different. I mean, you gotta change your game every single time, and stuff comes up that, so some of this is not having all the answers, but knowing when you're right and but knowing when you don't know, but how to very quickly find the right answer, right?
Yeah, and I think, and
that's not always posting on the internal sites.
No.
And having 400 people that also don't know the anser.
Yeah,
trying to tell you. I'm saying having experts really.
Yeah, and I think, and I love that you bring that up, because especially now, if we think, one, it's a constant changing game. Real estate is just not a one size fits all. Mm-hmm. Every deal that I've done, and I've been in it for a year, so it's not like I've done a mass amount, but I've done enough to understand, holy crap, one deal was I had one deal, literally, my client, I called him, he was like, yeah, I'm ready to buy this house, and sent me the picture, and he was like, I'm pre-approved. I'm like, great. I was like, talk to the agent, we put an offer in, called him on Monday, put an offer in on Wednesday, ratified on Thursday night, and closed. And I called my lender, I was like, dude, is this too good to be true? Typically when it's this good, there's something. He was like, dude, they got more money than they can afford it. Yeah. I was like, okay.
But sometimes it's just that easy, right?
Yeah. And I learn it's okay to accept that.
Right.
It's okay. Cause I was looking for something wrong, and I was like, no, it's fine. They know what they're doing. And now with the whole NAR thing, people have different opinions. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal.
No.
I think I think it's scaring a lot of people, but at the same time, the reason I like it is because when I was in roofing sales, like there's 1,000 roofers that knocked on this one person's door to say they were missing a shingle. So I have to tell them why they need to go with me.
Right.
And presenting value was that way. And with real estate, it's just listening, I think, is the biggest thing. Like, and you hit on it a lot. They have realtor.com, they have Zillow, they have the internet. Like, if they want to look up legal terms, if they want to look up how to submit an offer, they can do that.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's so accessible. But the difference is adding some type of value where it's worth. And I think that was a huge transition. Like the first 3 months I was in real estate, I didn't do much. Like there was not much transactions involved.
Right.
I was just learning the ropes. And I was in that chase mode. I was just chasing every lead that came through. I was just trying to grab. And I was like, one, not every lead is right for me.
Right.
Because it's not my niche. It's not my right fit client. So I'm still in a process where I'm trying to find that right fit client. But I think so many realtors, and we've hit on it a little bit, literally take the gum out, throw it on the wall and said, oh, that sticks. I want that one.
Yeah. It's like one day they're doing a $250,000 condo. The next minute they get a lead for an $8 million buyer. And it's like, they're wondering why they can't do both.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just network. I mean, and guess what? Sometimes you can do both. I mean, there's always exceptions to all these rules, but I think what you're saying is like so important because it really is, it's adding value, but it's also, again, going back to when you feel like you're an expert in what you're talking about, you are much more confident and much more comfortable. Mm-hmm. And like one of the things that I always say is, and again, this is an unpopular thing to say in real estate is, sometimes I tell the client they're wrong. You know, sometimes we go in a house and they're like, Jackie, I love this house and I want to buy this house. And I say, absolutely positively, it is your money, not mine, but I think you're making a mistake. And they're like, oh, whoa. Why do you think I'm making a mistake? Now, it's not like, oh, just because I don't like, it's not my taste. It's not that I don't like the color. I don't like this. But when you have real expertise in a market or real expertise with certain things and you feel more comfortable, you feel okay, potentially blowing up a deal because it's not right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's really, I think I've gotten more clients. I've done more business with the clients that I've blown up a deal or two purposefully because it wasn't the right deal.
Yeah.
And they've gone on to buy, I've got clients that have bought, done 9 and 10 transactions with me, spent 10, 20, 30, $40 million in multiple transactions, not only for themselves, but for their kids. Mm-hmm. Most of them started out because I told them they were making I didn't feel great about it.
Yeah.
Right. Not like, no, I'm not going to write the contract. Like, but hey, I don't feel great about this. Or sometimes it's just being like, hey, look, this is good. This is good. I like this, but I can do better.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, what? You don't want me to write the we're so like contract happy.
Yeah.
Now the flip side is, you could also spend your whole life talking people out of deals, which I have seen agents do. I have watched agents, they've shown people 40 homes. They absolutely positively are like, well, if you're not feeling it, let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. And at some point, it's you, not them.
Yeah.
You're doing them a disservice by not narrowing it down,
Yeah.
and after somebody sees 20, 30, 40 houses here, there's a reason they're not buying. What is that reason? Mm-hmm.
So I had my wife hang the bills and we went from making a good chunk of change to literally making nothing. And
yeah,
like as a man, I felt like that responsibility. Like
right.
I was like, oh my gosh, like we're newlyweds, all this stuff.
Right.
So I had the commission breath. Oh, how do I want to segue this? But
you're chasing it.
Yeah. And so it's
okay to trust me. There's nothing wrong. If you're a good salesperson, you're chasing it.
You
There's
have
nothing
to
wrong,
have.
But it's when you chase it and you lose all your focus is the problem.
And I think people let the chase, whatever business, whatever entrepreneur journey they're on, they let the one in our industry, we have the commission breath or the sales heavy. They just need the sale because they need to pay whatever fee they have attached to their business. I think they let that cloud their judgment, and then it becomes just a constant routine. And I've experienced this. Early on, I had a client, and I showed 40 properties too. Yeah. And they were just not budging. And I kept on showing, and I was just getting irritated. And then I think that's when my mentality shift. I was like, oh my God, I'm giving all my focus to this individual because this is my next sale. Like, this is going to be my next paycheck.
Right.
But if I put the math together, the time showing 40 properties, the amount of travel, the amount of gas I spent when I could have been sitting trying to cultivate other clients that are ready to buy.
Right.
So I came to a point where I looked down, I said, hey, listen, I can tell y'all aren't ready to buy. There's a lot of things that y'all need to figure out. I said, which is totally fine. But at the same time, when y'all are ready and like you're ready to, move forward onto a house, give me a call. And, I lost a client because of that. But at the same time, because I did that, I generated 3 other clients that we ended up closing on.
Right.
And I think, going back to those people that just talk themselves, like I was in that person, like I showed them a house and I didn't really like the house. I didn't think it was a good purchase. And there was just too many conflicting ideologies at play. Right. Like they were running to come $50,000 under $300,000. I'm like, I'm not going to label myself as a realtor just out the gate, undercutting everybody else. Like, so I had to part ways, and I lost a client because of that. But at the same time, like I learned something. I'm like, okay, well, listen, I'm not going to chase. Like, if you want to work with me, great. If not, that's fine. Like I had someone call me today. They were looking to buy, and they were like, hey, I know y'all are getting screwed over by NAR. I was like, not really. I was like, we've been doing this since we started. I said, buyer agency has been in play for a while. He was like, I took 3 real estate courses, so I think I can do it on my own. I was like, you know what? You probably could. I was like, absolutely. I was like, I'll share the listing agent's number with you and we'll go from there. Because I don't want to try to convince someone to go with me. Yeah. I want someone to see my value or see a value at play. And I think so many realtors and business owners don't really offer that value. Yeah. It's going to be seen more now with the whole NAR thing than ever before, because
I don't disagree with you. I think there's strategies though there of what you're talking about that my approach would have been to let them write the lowball contract.
Really? Why is that?
Because if they lose a couple houses that they really, really want, they're going to figure it out themselves.
Okay.
So instead of me saying to them, well, this is a low offer. If they said to me, do you think it's going to get accepted? I'd probably say no. I'd probably go in a little higher. But if we want to write the contract.
Yeah.
I will tell you the third time they do that, they'll never do it again.
Yeah.
So there's you know what I'm saying? There's all different strategies and approaches to how you go about getting that person off the fence.
Yeah.
Look, I think that the NAR, new rules, I had someone call me today and they're like, well, with all the new rules, I'm like, there really are no rules until July. We don't even know what the new rules are. So if you know what the new rules are, please tell me and advise, the entire industry, because it's, nationally, we don't know what the new rules are. So I'm really glad that you know them. I think one of the key things that I agree with most of what you said is, and I've said this to newer agents on my team, is don't waste your time. I'm not saying with a potential sale, right? Because we're salespeople and that's what we're supposed to do is sell and, give it your all. But you can waste a lot of time with the wrong person. Mm-hmm. And again, it kind of goes back to what I was saying before, like sales 101, find the decision maker. It's like, and this always shocks me. And because I do a lot of listings, I have a lot of agents that come in and I see them with their buyers. Mm-hmm. So I usually stand there, give a little bit of a presentation, and we don't use lock boxes in my team. We just will not use them. There is a live agent at every showing. If we can't be there, we don't show the house. I hear, because I'm standing there. Yeah. A lot of agents, there's so many nuggets here, but the agent that walks in is more interested in standing there talking to me and shooting the what than they are actually talking to their client about the house, and the client's wandering around and they clearly have questions, and nobody's more uncomfortable than me because I'm like, I'm about to step in to sell this house because you clearly are more interested in playing on your phone or talking to me.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. There's also, the agents that come in and just, they walk in, walk out, never ask them about the house. Like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And again, they don't have to love it. Sometimes showing people stuff they don't like gives you more answers than showing them stuff that they do. Mm-hmm. Like I'd rather walk into 3 houses and tell me they hate it to give me some idea of what they want.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think goes back to what you're saying about kind of wasting your time and showing 40 houses. Mm-hmm. When I have a new buyer, and this always drives me bananas when agents come in and they show a house and they're like, oh my God, Jackie, we've been to, 42 houses today. We've been all up and down the peninsula. Yeah. We've been going in. I'm sorry we're so late. We're an hour late because we were, here. I've showed 4 houses in every community up and down Mount Pleasant. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, what a goddamn waste of the day.
Yeah.
So put the people in the car for 2 hours, first 2 hours. And I do this with every out-of-town buyer. I'm like, we are not going inside any houses. I'm not taking you inside a house. Mm-hmm. I can find you the house. I'm not worried about finding you the house. Find the neighborhood, right? Because Charleston is so different. You can go from downtown to Shem Creek to, you name the area, everyone has such a different vibe. This is not like, cookie cutter. Let's go out, let's go out to XYZ community, a Del Webb community, and there's 700 houses in a row that all look the same, and we're trying to find the one that's got the nicest granite that you like, or the best tub in the master. Yeah. This is like about the vibe, right? It's about the place. So I spend the first 2 hours or the first day I am working with out-of-town buyers, and I literally put them in my car and we just drive. I don't like this. I like this. Oh God, forget it. So if I hadn't done that, I would have spent probably 3 hours taking them into houses in Carolina Park that it would not matter if they like the house or not.
Yeah.
Because they hate Carolina Park.
Yeah.
So they're never going to buy the houses in Carolina Park that they absolutely love because they hate Carolina Park.
Yeah.
Or Daniel Island. And I get people on Daniel Island. Oh God, this is like 2 country club. This is 2 Stepford wives. This is 2 blah, 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 blah. Whatever they're going to say about Daniel Island. Well, I have just wasted 5 hours taking them out of and used all of my contacts trying to get into off markets because there's not much on the market. Mm-hmm. I've wasted agents' time. I've wasted sellers' time. I've wasted my time, and I wasted the buyer's time.
Yeah.
Because they hate Daniel Island. So it's like that little, and again, I apologize because I rabbit trailed a little bit, but
no, it's good though.
What you said resonated so much with me about wasting time with one buyer when you could have been spending time with 3 other buyers.
Yeah.
Or you could have turned that buyer into a real buyer so much faster by spending 2 hours of something that they probably wouldn't want to do. Because people drive into town, they get off that plane and they're like, take me into houses.
Yeah.
And refusing to take them into houses is probably going to save everybody a lot of time, is probably going to get to their yes, right? They're going to go, no, to yes. Mm-hmm. How do I get to yes the fastest? And that is something that, as far as working with the buyers, and again, this is more of an out of town buyer thing. Yeah. Obviously, you get somebody who lives on Daniel Island, they want to move to the south side, to the park side, and it's a different, or, I live in Carolina Park and I want to live in Sullivan's Island. That's a different sell, right?
Yeah.
They know where they want to be. But let's call a spade. A lot of agents are showing a lot of buyers houses who are coming to this area for the first time.
Yeah.
They've never been here before. They read about it in a magazine, or somebody's friend of a friend played golf here, or somebody used to vacation when they were little in Hilton Head, and I think I want to move to Charleston.
Yeah.
And they think Charleston is, they don't know what the heck Charleston is. They're like, talk to us about this Mount Pleasant. It's like, well, that's Charleston. Talk to us about Daniel Island. That's Charleston. Talk to us about West Ashley. That's Charleston.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
it's like the uncomfortable, not fun 2 hours, 3 hours where you're not selling anything, but you're getting the knowledge base to not waste the next 3 days to have them get on the plane and be like, okay, well, now I'm totally confused. I mean, I find that agents do the worst job confusing the heck out of people by showing them 40 houses in Charleston in areas that they don't want to be in, because they're like, well, I liked a house in West Ashley, I liked a house on Daniel Island, and I liked a house in Carolina Park. And I'm thinking that maybe next time I want to go to James and John's Island.
Yeah.
Okay, well, now they got back on the plane. They may buy or they may not, or another agent might find something for them.
And the difference between with what you did, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to hit on this, is that the agent that shows 40 properties, they're a professional door opener.
Right.
The difference between what you're doing is you're taking the 2 hours. It may be uncomfortable. It may be an inconvenience, but 2 hours sitting in a car with someone and just talking, that's relationship. We're in a relationship business. So one, you're learning who the decision maker is.
Right.
You're learning the underlying motivation.
Right.
And then also you're eliminating the things that you would have found out if you just booked out 40 properties. And instead of being a professional door opener, you're a consultant.
Exactly.
And I think like that's something that I had to really like fight with myself on. I was like, I'm 24 years old. I bought a house, which I'm so thankful for. I'm with you. I don't believe in renting. I think renting's a scam, but that's a whole other ballgame in itself.
You go down another rabbit trail for hours and hours and hours on renting.
Yeah. But like I bought my house and I haven't owned many properties, but like I know the process so well because I studied it and not just taking the exam. I really wanted to learn it. And I was like, I said I'm 24. I'm 25. I lied. I don't even know my own age. How is a 25-year-old going to talk to someone that's in their 40s that's bought many properties? And I had to really get the confidence because I'm like, no, they're paying me a lot of money. So I'm going to be worth that money. Whether the seller's paying it or the buyer's paying it directly out their pocket,
right.
I still take it the same way.
Exactly.
And I was like, with some of these, and that's kind of how I approach some of these other bids where, I was working with a $2 million property and they wanted to come in extremely low, $500,000 under in the area. And I wanted to fight him on that. And I was like, no, you know what? He's paying me to get him a good deal. Now, if we don't win it, that's fine because the comps tell me that it should be listed for 2.4.
Right.
We're just trying to get rid of it. So it's a fair deal. But like he's paying me that to get this. And I said, so I would be I consulted him. I said, hey, this is why we should offer X.
Right.
But I understand you want to offer, $500,000 under. I get that. I got you. If you want to continue after I tell you this, I'll do it. And I'm going to try to get it for you. And I showed him the comps. We pulled the comps. We looked at everything. And like, he was like, listen, I want to offer this because I want to put $400,000 into it. And if I do it, for list price, then I'm going to be in the hole. And I'm like,
right.
Perfect. I was like, let's see if we can get it. I was like, I don't think so, but let's see. And we negotiated. Unfortunately, we didn't get it. But like, that's when I took that approach and said, no, I'm getting paid to do X.
Right.
So I'm the professional. Not to say like he was a real estate developer. He knows contracts through and through. Yeah. Probably a little bit better than I do. But like I'm the professional, so he's going to pay me to do something. And I think so many people in sales and everything, sales is not about convincing you to buy something. It's about showing you the value and showing you how you need it.
Right. And I think you just said something really important there, that client was a real estate developer. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. They're not emotional. It's all about the numbers.
No, not.
Right? So if you had, that's the other thing is like, and again, this, I think 90% of sales goes back to consulting, spending the time to do your homework, but it always goes back to find the decision maker.
Yep.
The decision maker in that case was somebody that was 100% dollar and cents driven. They're devoid of emotion, as opposed to a first-time home buyer who's looking at like, this is where we're going to have our kids, or this is what our dogs are going to love the back. Never underestimate the power of the dog making the decision on what house they're going to buy. I've gotten down that rabbit hole a lot, but it really is, and I say all the time, it never fails when a couple walks in a house. One person's emotional about the aesthetics and one person has a number in their head and we're not spending any more money.
Yeah.
You've got a money person and you have an aesthetic person, or an emotional person and a money person. Mm-hmm. Just like a developer as opposed to a couple coming in with their family, right? And sometimes it's the woman, sometimes it's the man, sometimes it's ex-partner, sometimes it's wife partner, whatever. Sometimes it's a mother and a daughter. Yeah. I mean, I've had a father and son come in where the father was footing the bill, but the son was going to, so whatever the combination of people that walk in, and I'm not just saying like, it is really find out who the number person is and who the emotional person is.
Yeah.
And then know that if you're going to spend your entire time walking behind the number person and being like, this is a good deal, this is a good deal, this is a good investment, you're totally losing the emotional person. And if you spend the entire time talking about, oh my gosh, and your Christmas tree can go here, and the dogs and the kids and and the dinner parties, you have totally lost the money guy.
Yeah.
Or the money girl.
Yeah.
You know, and you never know who it is. Like, I'm always shocked. Like, and sometimes it's not the person you think it is.
Yeah. I learned that quick.
Yeah. I just had a father and son. The father was consulting for the son, long lines, and the father was helping them out with some of the down payment. Well, I found out really, really quickly, it was the son was going to buy the property. Like, he was going to have the choice, but I was negotiating with the dad. You know what I mean? So it was really, really like an interesting, then all of a sudden it was the father that wanted to spend more money because he saw the long-term value, and the son got really spendthrift. Like, he didn't want to spend the money.
Interesting.
So it's like, it changed on me on a dime. But again, that's just like you said, if driving around the car with 2 hours with them, I figured that out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You know, like kind of what was happening and the dynamics there. I mean, you know, there's normally there's always somebody too who's like, I'm not going to go over X. And, you know, I talk a lot about that with listing prices. And again, I'm rabbit trailing a little with listing prices because I think it's very important, because I think most agents have no idea. You know, they just name prices and the person says, yeah, I like that number. And they're like, okay. Or they just run comps and there's no consult. It's just they're running comps. And they're just like, okay, the comps say this, so we're going to list it at that.
Yeah, the CMA came out to be X, Y.
Let's list it at that.
That irritates me.
Right? So, and again, I'm going to say something really unpopular because I know everyone talks about strategic pricing and going up to the next round number so you catch the higher end buyer. I actually have the opposite. There are usually people who, like, I just had somebody want to list their house for $3 million, and I said, we're going to list it at $299,999. And they were like, that's so funny, because you had 4 other agents from Carolina One who came in and said strategic pricing, and we're gonna list it at $3 million because we want to capture the $3 to $4 million buyer, and people search on the $1 million. And I said, they're 99% of buyers that I've ever worked with, someone has said, I am not going a dime over. I am not spending $3 million. They'll spend $2,999,000, but they are so not going to spend $3 million.
That's so true.
Because they have in their head that is way too much to spend.
Yeah.
And they have set that number. So they don't even want to look at listings at $3 million.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that this whole strategic pricing thing can go both ways. And again, it does take some experience. It does take confidence. It does take all of that.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of goes back to, and I think this is probably a COVID thing more than it was anything. I mean, I started my career and COVID hit. So I got my real estate license in December, and COVID basically like hit that following spring. It was like, holy God, this was just about the stupidest business ever to get into. Yeah. Because no one's going to show their houses and nobody wants anybody to go in. My partner and I back then, and she's still at the company and we're great friends. We just, you know, we kind of both are doing our own businesses now. We established ourselves. We were brand new agents. We had no business. We're like, we're going to try to break into Daniel Island that has like OGs, and everyone's like, are you crazy? You're never breaking into this market. They've got every, you know, center of this area coin left to right. And we were like, no, we're going to break in. We're going to break in. So like during COVID, we were like the only people, like we'd go in with gloves. We'd go in with hair. We'd be at every listing. We wouldn't put lock boxes on. It was a mindset that came out of COVID that once COVID ended and people started putting lock boxes on the houses, it was sort of like, okay, well, this is pretty silly because I'm able to talk to the agent. I'm actually able to talk to the buyer. In what other business as the opposite side can I get in the buyer's ear that's someone else's client about why this is good. I certainly can't do that if I'm not there.
Yeah.
Right?
It's genius.
So you're the buyer's agent. I'm the seller's agent. You come into my house or a listing that I have. And again, I'm not stepping on your toes. I'm not being obnoxious. I'm giving you a little 2 cents.
Yeah.
And then I sort of disappear. I go on the porch, or I go to the dining room, or I busy myself with whatever I'm doing. 9 times out of 10, the agent will wonder where I am and say, hey, we have a couple questions, or what do you think about this? Or is there any room in the price? Or we're talking about this. Do you think they'd be willing to do that? Or what's the, what's the close date they want? Or the buyer will start asking questions like, oh, I don't really love the, brown cabinets. At which point I can say, oh my gosh, I have a great cabinet guy. I'm happy to give it to your agent. I just had it done with another house. It was $8,000. And they're like, all of a sudden the cabinets are not a big deal. But if you're not there, the amount of market knowledge you lose is like crazy. Yeah. I mean, it is crazy. It's like agents that don't do their own open houses. Drives me bananas.
That drives me nuts too, because
you spent how much time trying to get that listing? You won the listing.
Yeah.
Right? So, and your seller is paying you. Mm-hmm. Yet you're going to throw on the internet. 9 times out of 10, it's an experienced agent who's never been in the house before, doesn't know the market, doesn't, whatever. Now, I'm not saying you don't have an emergency, and I've done it before. Like, look, I have an emergency. I've got something going on with my kids. Can you help me out? I strategically always pick an agent that either lives in that neighborhood or knows that neighborhood better than I do to do the open house, because stuff happens.
Yeah.
But as a philosophy, and I get people who call me all the time and they're like, Jackie, I'd love to do your open house. I'd love to do your open house. And I'm like, of course, very respectful, but it never fails. I hang up the phone and I'm like, why would I not capture all those buyers coming in on a listing that I work for so hard? And then why would I not be there to actually sell the house that the seller is paying me a lot of money to sell?
Yeah. Yeah, I always struggle with that, because I thought about it, and I'm going to use the context of this podcast. I took 3 months building out a whole market strategy, building out a whole plan for this, and it'd be like, oh, this is great. I can't wait to see this flourish into what I have envisioned. And me finding John Doe on the side of the road that we've had 2 or 3 conversations with and be like, hey, you're going to run this thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, this is my baby. This is what I created. This is what I want my culture implemented in it, and I want to have control.
Right.
That's always shocked me. Like, as a new agent, I appreciated those opening the open houses for a newer agent to come in. But at the same time, if I was a listing, I want to leverage that to my best ability. Because it's like, I don't know. I've seen in so many open houses, like, it's the whole theory. Like, renters aren't going to care for the house that you own.
Right.
Someone that doesn't have the listing, their name on the listing, is not going to care about that listing as much as you do.
Yeah.
They're going to care about trying to get a new buyer agent.
Right.
They don't care about selling the house. If they sell the house while they're there, fantastic.
Right. But how often does that happen? It's usually a buyer who wants to see something else.
Yeah.
So
like, that's where I always struggled. And I always struggled with agents. Like, I had a client that I was working with. She was moving here from Long Island, and she was looking to move down here, and her mom listed her house to move back up to Long Island. She was like, oh man, she was like, my mom, picked another agent. I wanted to refer her, but like, it was already, in place. I was like, oh, no worries. I was like, where's it at? And, I'll help promote it as much as I can, yada, yada. She was like, let me ask you this. She was like, is it weird for an agent not to ever do an open house? I was like, I mean, there's agents that do it, but for me, yeah. Like, if I have a listing, it's an open house. Like, right. If I could do every week, that's fantastic. And it's just crazy to me that so many people don't do it. It really blows my mind. But we are rolling through the time. I want to end on this. So you've been in the industry since 2019, and you've just exploded. And, what's your biggest driving factor? Like, what's the thing that, you said you have your people that you're chasing, which I have those people, but what happens? What's your second motivation? Because I walk into a room and I look at the room, I said, I'm going to be the best person here. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I'm going to be the best person here. What's that second motivator when you get to the top?
God, it's such a hard question to answer, because the answer that I want to give you, which is probably the most honest, is not very sexy, but I think it is like this inner drive that I feel that I can help people achieve tremendous wealth. And that is very, very rewarding to me. I don't know another industry, if you will, I guess if you help people in the stock market, but I feel that many of people's greatest wealth achievement in their lifetime is real estate. And there's something really, really, really fulfilling about that when I can make other people money. I'm not in the business of, I guess one of my, spiels, claim to fame, whatever, is like, I'm a very, very investment driven real estate agent. So it's all great that you really love this house and you're going to raise your family there. But like, what if you have to sell it? Like, I don't want anybody to ever lose money. I want you to make money. I think probably the best feeling I ever had in real estate, barring, two. One was a kid stood up at his high school graduation and said, I want to thank Jackie for helping pay my college education because I'd flipped his parents' house. And literally when they were moving, the dad said, that real estate deal just paid for your college education.
That's incredible.
Second was I had clients, they were New York City police officers, both of them. They were early retiring. They had 2 sons. Their dream was to move to Charleston and get out of Manhattan. They loved Daniel Island. They did not think they could afford Daniel Island. They were like, we know we can't afford it. And they kept coming back and they were like, we can't afford it. We can't afford it. Show us these other places. And I knew in their heart of hearts that this would just like make their dreams come true.
Yeah.
So I was able to find them something on Daniel Island within their price range, off market. And then within 6 months, leveraged it into something even bigger because of what we were able to flip it into. And they were in like literally the house of their dreams. Like like I went home, I was like, it brings tears to my eyes. It was so fulfilling. And those 2 things have resonated with me more than anything else. And it was really about like helping people and help people achieving wealth and achieving their goals. And, it's like kind of a partnership. It's a team effort. It's like I'm your partner and you're coming to me as an advisor and, and it's an investment, it's an investment. So those are probably 2 things that I chase is more of those, right? More of moments that I feel like that, more of that.
Yeah. I think, helping people, I think is a huge driving factor with anything. I mean, with this podcast, with real estate, I think and everyone I've ever interviewed and talked to, are you familiar with Russell Brunson?
No.
He created a software called ClickFunnels, and he has this it's network marketing and all this stuff. But his big thing was, I just want to help people sell. His big thing, I want to help people help people. So he created a program that helps people sell their programs and courses and all that stuff. And every highly successful person I've talked to and interviewed, it all started with, I want to help. It's not like I want to be rich. Like, obviously that's going to have some part to play. Like, I mean, you're not human if you're like, I just want to help people and be poor.
Yeah. No. I mean, we're salespeople. This is not, we're not saving lives here.
Yeah. No. And I do think that's cool and a big thing. Cause I mean, I use the same tactic. I have people that on my team and throughout real estate is when I see them, I'm like, how can I beat that person? Not in a, like, I want to see them fail, but more in a sense of like, they're helping me get to that next level.
Yeah.
They're that driving. And in entrepreneurship, you need that in anything. Like, whether you have like a consulting business or whatever, you have to have another business, not that you're comparing yourself to, but something that you're striving to beat.
Yeah. I mean, the most successful people that I know in the world, or I've ever met, it comes from within, right?
Yeah.
It is like there's driving factors that come from within. And yeah, some is money, some is helping people, some is personal wanting to achieve a level of success, some is, having milestones that you want to meet and have that be natural. I mean, I don't think you go into, at the end of the day, and again, I struggle with this because I know this is really unpopular at times to say with real estate, but in the heart of hearts, we're salespeople, right? I mean, it's a commission-driven business. We are salespeople. Mm-hmm. Selling to people does not have to mean doing them a disservice or slamming something down their throat or us just making money, right?
Yeah.
Selling is a two-way street. It's consultative. I mean, the best sales agreements in the world have been when there's a partnership where everybody wins, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I just had this with a repair procedure. I'm like going like, okay, like no one has to win here. Yeah. It's more about like, I've got a buyer who wants to buy and a seller who wants to sell. And the only two people standing in the way of this deal are basically the two agents because someone's trying to win here. And it's just about the dumbest thing I've ever been involved in. It's more about, okay, how can we make compromise so everybody moves everything forward? You know, and sometimes it's us getting out of our own way. Sometimes it's us putting our own ego in check. Sometimes it's us making a compromise. Sometimes it's us letting somebody else win. And I think sometimes when you explain that to the buyer or the seller, like, look, at the end of the day, we can go through this and we can win. And the next 45 days to get to the closing table is going to be really grossly unpleasant for everybody.
Yeah.
Or we can maybe make some compromises, you know, and again, not letting anybody win, but making some compromises that's going to allow the deal to move forward. And again, sometimes that's the agent saying, look, you know, we can't come to terms because of a $300 whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, why don't I help you out with that? You know, or there's a bad taste in someone's mouth because of, you know, we're in I think the big thing is, oh my God, I'm just the agent. This is about the buyer and seller. I'm going to collect my 2.5%, 3%. And, you know, it's not about me. Yeah. It's like, it is about you because you're a part of it, right? You've partnered with the buyer or the seller. You've partnered with the agent. You've for the next, whatever, 30, 45, 60 days, it's almost like you're in a marriage. I mean, the amount of intimacy that we have with our clients during a sale or a purchase of a home is so crazy, right? I mean, I know more about some of my clients that I should know, know, whatever, but it's also keeping that at a comfortable level for everybody, keeping that in a trust level where it's coveted, keeping that and nurturing that and just getting people from point A to point B where people feel like, look, I won a few times, I lost a few times, but the process was really easy. And that's when they're going to remember us, not for winning. They're going to remember because the process was good. Yeah. Which I love that. God, this was so good. We hit a lot. There's so much more I could go in, but for time's sake, I mean, thanks for having me. Yeah. It was really fun. I enjoyed meeting you. Thank you so much, Jackie. And then I'll leave on this. If all my listeners on here, where can they find you? SouthernYankeeGroup.com, Instagram handle Southern Yankee Group, or you can just email me, jacqueline.dinsmore@carolina1.com. So awesome. Yeah. Well, Passion Seekers, this was episode 4. Super excited for it. A lot in store to unpack here, but thank y'all. I'll see ya. Peace.